The chains rattled as she was dragged into the open. Her blue skin shimmered beneath the twin suns, bruised and smeared with dust. Even beaten, the young alien woman held her head high. Royal blood flowed in her veins, one of the last surviving daughters of the Zarathi Dominion. Her people had lost the war, their world scattered like ashes in the void. The arena was built for spectacle, a place of public executions. The crowd roared, thousands of alien eyes watching her final moments. Floating cameras hovered in the air, broadcasting the event across half the galaxy. A warning to all who dared defy the Council of Unity. Her crime? Refusing to betray her people. They brought out the executioner next, an apex predator taken from a death world no species had dared to colonize, Earth. He was tall, even by human standards. Muscles coiled under his armor like steel cables, and his expression was unreadable. His name was Sarian Classification Code K-117, but the whispers among the guards called him the Ghost of Earth. Captured years ago during a failed planetary invasion, he had been broken, conditioned, and finally repurposed by the Council. They turned him into a living weapon. His track record was terrifying, 19 successful kills, all enemies of the Council. He obeyed every command. Until now. She stood in the center of the arena, proud but shaking. Her purple eyes locked with his as he was handed the blade. The crowd fell silent. The Council's command echoed through the speakers. Execute her. Now. He stepped forward. The girl's breath caught. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. Her eyes were defiant. But there was something else, curiosity, as if wondering what he would do. He stopped 2 meters from her. Then, something strange happened. The human looked at the blade, looked at her, and slowly, deliberately, he dropped the weapon. It clanged against the arena floor. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A moment later, the apex predator did something unthinkable. He knelt, one knee pressed into the dust. His head bowed. The arena exploded in chaos. Officials shouted. Guards rushed forward. The cameras spun wildly, unsure of what to focus on. And yet, in the center of it all, the human remained still, kneeling before the girl he was supposed to kill. The alien woman stared, stunned. She had heard stories, rumors of humans possessing an ancient code of honor. She thought them exaggerations. But this was real. A commander barked orders. Restrain him. Recondition him. Before the guards could reach him, the girl stepped forward. Gently, she placed her bound hands on the human's shoulder. I am Princess Larava of House Teshin, she said quietly. Why would you kneel to me? His voice was rough, rarely used, but every word rang with clarity. Because you still stand when others would bow. And because I remember what my people once stood for. The guards hesitated. Even they were unsure what to do. The cameras caught it all. And in that one moment, across 1,000 worlds, something shifted. A predator had chosen loyalty over programming. Blaster rifles clicked into position. Dozens of armored guards surrounded the 2 figures in the center of the arena. Some shouted conflicting orders, unsure whether to shoot or wait for clearance. The Council's voice rang through the arena speakers again, this time edged with panic. Terminate them both. Now. The guards hesitated. No one moved. A single wrong shot in front of a live galactic broadcast could trigger riots, rebellions, or worse. Princess Larava stood beside the kneeling human, still chained, but something in her posture had changed. Not fear, not submission, but control. And K-117, no, the human, was no longer just a weapon. He was something else now. A symbol, a rebellion waiting to happen. The princess leaned down and whispered, You know they'll kill us both. The human looked up at her. They'll try. Then he moved. Fast. Too fast. Before the first guard could react, he was already up, grabbing the blade he had dropped. With one precise throw, it embedded into the skull of the nearest enforcer. Panic spread. The next few seconds were a blur, guns raised, energy blasts fired. But K-117 was a predator from Earth. On a death world, reflex was the difference between survival and extinction. 3 guards went down before the others even realized they were under attack. And still, he shielded her. Larava ducked behind him as he intercepted a stun blast with his shoulder, grunting but unfazed. His hand clamped around the collar of a charging soldier, lifting him into the air and slamming him into the arena wall. Then something unexpected happened. The crowd, once silent, began to cheer. Not all of them, but enough. Aliens from subjugated species, watching this gladiator defy their rulers. Hope sparked where there had only been obedience. Above, in the council's box, one of the high commanders turned pale. "We need to cut the feed, shut down the broadcast." Another one hissed. Too late. It's already viral across half the sector. Back on the ground, the remaining guards formed a ring around the fugitives. "Surrender," one barked. "You're surrounded." K-117 looked to Larava. "Can you run?" "I've been running since they burned my homeworld," she replied with a fire in her eyes. He smiled, just slightly, and hurled a smoke canister taken from a fallen guard. The arena filled with black fog. Screams erupted. The crowd surged in panic. Chaos was the only ally they had now. They ran. Through tunnels beneath the arena, through maintenance shafts, past stunned engineers, and scrambling security bots. Larava's chains clattered, but the human broke them with a stolen plasma cutter mid-sprint. Her wrists bled, but she didn't complain. She had followed soldiers before, but never like this. "K-117, she panted. "What do I call you?" There was a pause as they ducked behind a bulkhead to avoid a patrol. "Call me Kale." He'd reclaimed his name. She nodded. "Then Kale, this way. I know how to get us out of the city." They moved like shadows, deeper into the underbelly of the Capitol complex. Emergency sirens echoed above. The broadcast had been cut, but not before billions had witnessed the impossible. A human apex predator defying his overlords and protecting a royal heir to a conquered race. By the time they reached the outer transport tunnel, they weren't just fugitives. They were something far more dangerous. Symbols. Kale stole a council transport ship, just small enough to avoid immediate satellite tracking. Larava punched in hidden escape vectors once used by the royal family. The launch was rough, the sky filled with scrambling interceptors, but they made it through the clouds. The stars opened up before them. They were free. For now. In the silence of orbit, Larava leaned against the cold metal wall of the cabin. Her entire life had been about survival. But now, there was a chance to fight back. "You disobeyed a direct order," she said softly. Kale nodded. "That order was wrong. You realize the council won't stop hunting you now. I'm counting on it." She looked at him, bruised and tired, but something like a smile touched her lips. "You could have killed me. Why didn't you?" Kale didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared out at the stars. "Because you didn't beg. Because I saw someone who still had pride. And because I've taken too many orders from people who don't deserve obedience." Larava stood beside him. "Then what do we do now?" He turned to her. "Now, we find those who still believe in freedom. And after that," Kale's voice was low, dangerous, and certain, "we bring down the ones who forgot what fear feels like." Outside the viewport, the first of a dozen rebel ships responded to their beacon. The galaxy was about to remember the cost of tyranny, and it all started with one kneeling predator. The rebel ships that answered Kale's beacon weren't warships in the traditional sense. They were old freighters, refitted mining rigs, and smugglers' cruisers held together by stubborn engineers and duct tape logic. But they were fast, off-grid, and flown by people who had lost everything to the council. When the rebel commander appeared on the screen, a scarred Rilithan with one eye replaced by a glowing sensor, he squinted at the two fugitives and said, "You brought her?" "The princess." "I did," Kale answered. "Then you've just made every system loyal to the council our enemy." Kale leaned closer. "You weren't exactly on their gift list to begin with, were you?" The Rilithan barked a laugh. "Fair." Larava stepped into view. "We need a secure base. Somewhere they won't find us before we're ready." The commander nodded slowly. "You're asking a lot. But after what the galaxy just saw you two do, people are ready to fight." For the first time in decades, they believe the council can bleed. They docked with the lead ship, the Ember Fawn. Kale walked through the corridors of the vessel with the quiet awareness of a soldier among other soldiers. The crew stared at him, not with fear, but with reverence. Even among hardened rebels, he stood out. In the ship's war room, maps of sectors lit up in red and yellow, dotted with tags of enemy movement. The rebellion wasn't new. It had just never been unified. Until now. Larava pointed at a world near the border of the council's reach. Frection 5. It's not fortified yet, but it's a key refueling depot. If we take it, the council will notice. And so will everyone else. The commander folded his arms. "That's suicide." Kale replied. No, it's bait. He tapped on the screen, highlighting a narrow asteroid belt behind the planet. They'll think we're trying to hold the planet. But we're not. We hit it hard, fast. We plant explosives on the depot and lure their fleet in. Then we hit their command ships from the belt. Guerrilla warfare, Deathworld style, Larava added. And once we win, we send the footage. Show the galaxy that the Council's not invincible. The Rilithan commander laughed again. You two are crazy. I like it. The plan moved fast. In less than 24 hours, a strike force was assembled. Kale trained a group of volunteers personally, aliens from half a dozen races, none of whom had ever fought alongside a human before. He didn't talk much, but when he did, they listened. He's not a soldier, one of them said. He's a damn force of nature. The day of the raid came. They dropped out of hyperspace near Threxion, 5 under the cover of an ion storm. The rebel ships blitzed the orbital depot, overwhelming its defenses in minutes. Kale led the charge with Larava at his side, her once royal hands now wielding a rifle with deadly precision. They didn't just fight. They inspired. The footage of the human and the exiled princess fighting side by side spread like wildfire. It reached mining colonies, slave stations, even embedded operatives within council space. For the first time in living memory, people didn't just whisper rebellion. They believed in it. The council responded fast. Within hours, a fleet of 12 destroyers warped in. But Kale had predicted it. His team had already seeded the belt with high-yield mines and cloaked drones. As the first wave of enemy ships gave chase, explosions tore through their formation. Larava watched from a cliffside, helmet on, heart pounding. They're taking the bait. Kale's voice crackled through her comms. Get ready to move. We go for the command vessel. They boarded it using a stolen interceptor, blasting through a hangar before it could raise shields. Inside, Kale fought like a man possessed. No wasted movement. Every strike meant something. He reached the council's fleet admiral and didn't hesitate. You're the one who gave the order, Kale growled. The admiral smirked. You think killing me matters? No, Kale said coldly. But watching you fall does. The feed was live. He dropped the admiral's insignia on the bridge floor, then stared into the camera. This is for every world you burned. For every child you enslaved. You built an empire of fear. Now feel what you taught us. He crushed the insignia beneath his boot. Larava triggered the remote beacon. The rebel fleet warped in behind the asteroid belt, and the final phase began. What followed was chaos. Battles across orbit, rebels holding their own against elite forces. Kale was everywhere, commanding squads, saving pinned soldiers, and personally taking down a gunship with nothing but a grappling hook and plasma charges. When the council fleet finally retreated, limping and humiliated, the galaxy took notice. Kale stood in the ashes of the depot, breathing heavily. Larava approached him, helmet off, wind in her dark hair. We just made ourselves the most wanted people in the galaxy, she said. Good, Kale replied. Now they'll come to us. She stepped closer. You're more than a weapon now, Kale. You're a legend. He shook his head. Legends die. But ideas? They don't. She reached out, placing her hand on his chest. Then let's make sure the galaxy remembers yours. The rebels began to chant his name. Kale, the predator who knelt, the soldier who defied the council, the man who gave them hope. Kale stood at the edge of the command deck, staring into the stars. The rebels were celebrating behind him, singing, laughing, patching up wounds, but his eyes were distant. Victory was never permanent in war. It was just borrowed time. Larava joined him quietly. She held a datapad filled with messages from dozens of fringe worlds. They're calling you the Starlit Fawn. They say you tore through the council like a predator unchained. Kale didn't react. They'll come harder next time. They always do, she replied. But they're also fractured now. Morale is broken. Half of their border fleets have gone silent. He turned to face her. And the other half, preparing for full-scale retaliation. Kale nodded slowly. Then we hit them before they're ready. She studied him, the faint bruises along his jaw, the tension in his shoulders. He hadn't rested in 3 days. Neither had she. You know, Larava said softly, when they told you to kill me back then, part of me wanted you to try. Kale's brow lifted slightly. Why? Because I thought it would be better than surviving alone. He didn't smile, but there was warmth in his voice. You're not alone anymore. Neither of them said what lingered between the words. The bond that had grown from survival, from loyalty, and something deeper neither of them dared name yet. A ping echoed through the deck. The Rilithan commander's face appeared on a nearby holoscreen, grim. We've intercepted movement. 5 council warships are converging on Varnak's Reach. Kale stiffened. That's a civilian sector. Exactly. They want to make an example. We need time to gather forces, but you're the only one close enough to reach it in time. Kale glanced at Larava. I'll go, she said without hesitation. No, he said. I'll go. You rally the others. Larava stepped forward. If you go alone, I won't be alone. He tapped the console. Load the dagger. Prep her for silent insertion. And tell them. He paused. Tell them the apex predator is coming. Within an hour, Kale was aboard the Dagger, a stealth-class vessel with obsidian black armor and gravitic mufflers. Only a few in the galaxy could detect it. Fewer could survive what came after. As he sat in the cockpit, Kale replayed the images of Varnak's Reach. Bustling markets, floating schools, a place where aliens of all types had carved a fragile peace. And now, it was in the crosshairs. The Dagger dropped out of hyperspace just beyond the system's edge. The Council warships hovered like silent titans over the planet. Kale narrowed his eyes. Let's see if your tech is as sharp as your cruelty. Using the ship's cloaking, he slipped into the planet's upper orbit. From there, he launched drop pods, decoys carrying EMP bursts and false signals. The warships shifted, confused. Kale used the moment to launch himself directly at the bridge of the lead vessel. The Council ship's alarms barely began before his boarding spike embedded into its hull. Kale breached the walls with thermite and charged in, alone. The guards weren't ready. He moved like a storm, fluid, precise. Within seconds, the command deck was his. The commander stared in disbelief. You're just one man. Kale slammed the pommel of his blade against the table. Rome, I'm a consequence. With the ship's comms, he sent a message to the other Council warships. You attack civilians, I make you vanish. He triggered a detonator, and 3 massive blasts rocked the other ships. Rebel agents, planted days ago, had sabotaged their cores. The Council fleet fractured in real time. One ship fled. The others hesitated. Kale left the burning bridge, fighting his way through to an escape pod. As he ejected into space, the Council ship exploded behind him, broadcast across hundreds of rebel-linked channels. The people of Varnak's Reach saw it all. They wept and cheered. Kale was retrieved mid-flight by a stealth cruiser. Larava was aboard, her expression unreadable. You did it, she whispered. No, Kale said, slumping into a seat. We did. She knelt beside him, taking his hand in hers. You're bleeding. He glanced at the wound. It'll scar. Good, she said. Let the galaxy see it. A reminder of what happens when you stand up to monsters. Their ship turned, fading into the stars. Behind them, the people of Varnak lit their skies with colors of rebellion. One man had turned the tide. One human who refused to be their weapon. News of Kale's assault on the Council fleet at Varnak's Reach spread faster than any fleet could travel. Across the fractured galaxy, broadcasts replayed the same footage. A single human breaching a warship alone, disabling an entire squadron, and escaping without a scratch, his message clear. You target civilians, you vanish. Some called it madness. Others called it divine reckoning. But to most, it was hope. The rebellion gained thousands of new supporters overnight. Entire colonies declared neutrality or open defiance. And at the center of it all was Kale, the so-called apex predator who now knelt only to his own code. But with fame came danger. The Council convened a high-security assembly on Icarus Prime. The motion was unanimous. Kale must be eliminated. With the girl. They weren't blind to the bond between Kale and Larava, and they intended to exploit it. The trap was set. Larava received a message routed through ancient rebel channels, encrypted in a voice only one person could mimic. Her brother. Dead. Or so she had believed. The message claimed he was alive, imprisoned on the barren moon of Selvith under Council guard. I have to go, Larava said, strapping on her gear. Kale blocked the hatch. You think it's real? She hesitated. No, she whispered. But I have to know. Kale studied her, then nodded once. We go together. Selvith was a dead moon, scarred by plasma storms and tectonic fractures. As their ship descended, signals were jammed and visibility cut in half. They landed at the coordinates, but found no prison, no guards, no traps. Just a small metal box. Inside, a single neural beacon, pre-activated. Kale's face hardened. It's a tracker. We have to move. Missiles struck the ridge behind them. Dozens of drop pods slammed into the dirt. Elite Council assassins emerged, clad in reflective armor, flanking the area like wolves. The Council commander stepped forward. Kale, Larava, you'll surrender now, or die. Kale slowly set his weapon down. But not to surrender. He knelt beside Larava. You trust me? Always. He pressed a beacon to her belt. Get to the high rocks. On my mark, run. What about you? He kissed her forehead and stood tall, then roared. Not a cry of fear, but one of defiance. Of fury. He ran toward the soldiers alone. They fired. Kale moved like a ghost, weaving between blasts, disarming two of them before they could blink. His blade cut through the air like fire, buying seconds, enough for Larava to scramble up the slope. The beacon on her belt flashed, and from orbit, the Dagger 2, Kale's new prototype cruiser, fired its rail cannon straight into the enemy formation. Earth-shattering impact. Dust clouds rose. Half the council squad was gone. Kale, battered and bloodied, dragged himself toward the slope. One last enemy stood in his path, a massive assassin with a pulse axe. Kale had no weapon left. The enemy swung, but before it landed, Larava hurled her own blade. It pierced the assassin's throat. Kale collapsed at her feet, bleeding but alive. She dropped to her knees and cradled him. Don't you dare die. He smiled weakly. You called me yours once, remember? She nodded. Then I'm not going anywhere. They extracted from the battlefield moments before council reinforcements arrived. The trap had failed. Worse, the footage of the council ambush was leaked by Larava herself. Planets that once feared the rebellion now stood with them. Council leaders began defecting. Factions fell apart. The final battle came 6 months later, above the skies of Earth. The council fleet arrived, desperate to reclaim dominance. But Kale's fleet was ready. Thousands of ships formed a living shield over Earth's orbit. When the first council ship fired, Kale's voice echoed through every channel. You wanted a predator. On screen, he stood beside Larava, hand in hers. Now deal with the pack. The battle was short, and it was final. The council fell, and Kale, the man once trained to kill without question, became the symbol of a galaxy reborn. He never sought a throne, but when Larava was crowned queen of the new galactic accord, she named him something far greater. Her equal, her peacekeeper, her mate. And the galaxy remembered him not as a predator, but as the man who chose mercy when told to kill.